Welcome to the STARS program, seniors taking active roles in society. And now, here's your host, ANITA FINLEY.
We have, of course, for those of you who remember Alice Cypress, we had her on, months ago. And, of course, she was the book of the month. We had a wonderful, I think you were the book of the month we had on the cover because it was so gorgeous. Scuba Zach meets Thaddeus the Barracuda. That was our first one. Now we have Scuba Zach searches for Thaddeus, and it's Alice Cypress. And Alice, though, during the day, she is a neonatal nurse here in Broward Health. And you're the one down there in Fort Lauderdale, right? Because I was just with the gentleman who's been the CEO, who I like so much, of that hospital. Can't remember his name now, but he really was absolutely, thank you, he was absolutely wonderful. And we always brag about what just happened now with the children. We have this wonderful new wing that was dedicated, and you're there and you're doing your best. And for you now to write these books, why don't you tell us what the new book is and what's happened with it that's different?
Scuba Zach Searches for Thaddeus is a continuation of my second book, Scuba Zach Meets Thaddeus the Barracuda. I decided to write the second version of the book because every time a child read the book, they would constantly ask the question, is the scuba diver and the barracuda going to meet again? So after so many months, I decided, well, maybe I should get them to meet again because with the first one, the moral of the story was that the scuba diver encountered a barracuda that he was afraid of because he had heard stories about him. And he found out at the end of the dive that Thaddeus, which is the barracuda's name, wasn't a bad fish at all. He was a very sad fish because he had no friends. So there was an opinion formed about him just because of the story. So always when I go to the schools and different places and read, we always talk about bullying and other issues in the schools and, people forming opinions about someone before they get to know them. So I thought that was a great book. So I should do a continuation where the two meet again and they're friends. And we would hope that would happen in the real world.
I love that. I remember you talking about that when we first had you on the radio. And it's interesting that when a child first sees all the gorgeous colors and the illustrations, that's what makes your book so special. And by the way, her first book won an award for the best children's book. I'll bet it actually was influenced because it comes with actually a barracuda, not a real barracuda, but a little toy barracuda that Alice actually has this material, paints on the face of and what it really looks like, and then their mother comes in and sews them to make them. I mean, I'll never forget you. You are so special in what you do with this. So anybody who's really looking now, Christmas is going to be coming up, or it can be some other time, but you want to buy the cutest book for a kid. And this could be, it could be a teenager would love it just as much because I enjoyed it. The colors, the figures, the illustrations are beautiful. And now the new book, you could buy both books. Really, that was what I suggest. You buy the both of them because then one leads into the other. It's like a continuation, a series. But now the new one, instead of having the Barracuda toy, but if you buy the first one, you'll still get it. But the second one has a coloring book. And we know how popular coloring books are. You know that even adults now are coloring, right?
I love to color.
Yeah, right. I mean, and it's beautiful, but your coloring book will have a lot of time with all the fish and the colors it is just glorious. I just love what you did. So now you get a coloring book along with this. Wow. So let's tell people how they can get this if they want to do it. It's a lovely thing. It's not very expensive. As a matter of fact, I think it's too inexpensive. But the way you're going to go you're going to go to tigerflybooks.com, TIGERFLY books.com, and it's Alice Cypress. And the one that we first had was Scuba Zach meets Thaddeus the Barracuda. And now the next one is Scuba Zach searches for Thaddeus because, why don't you tell the story of why that's so appropriate?
The second one, I gave it the title He's Searching for Me because at the end of the first book, he says that when he dives at the West End, he will look for Thaddeus again. So Scuba Zach goes diving again down in the Florida Keys, and he's actually down there diving and taking photos of the different fish. And with the book, as he's taking photos, he's naming the fish that he's seeing or the sea creatures, because I wanted the children to know the name of the different fish as they're looking at them. And in the meantime, he's taking pictures, but he's looking for Thaddeus and hoping that he sees Thaddeus. And he goes to the same spot, and Thaddeus is there waiting for him with this little smile on his face. And Scuba Zach is a little bit afraid of him in the beginning, but then he realized that he's happy to see him, and Thaddeus is happy to see him. So they just kind of like cruise around the reef, and Thaddeus takes him to different parts of the reef he's never gone before, and the other fish are a little bit in shock because they've never seen a human and a barracuda together. So it's just a great little book and very, very colorful, and I hope the children enjoy it just as much as the first one.
Right, and here he's petting Thaddeus. I mean,
yes.
Thaddeus and Zach are really, that's just lovely. Oh, I see what he says. Realize the time that they gave him a long, smooth. Oh, they have to now say goodbye again. Oh, that's so sad. I guess that's what you draw when people go. So he says, I will visit Thaddeus as often as I can. He's a true friend, which is better than a fan. Right?
Yes.
The end. I love this. Let's see. A fun quiz. But it is superb with your... I know it's a good story, but without the pictures of all the fish and the color, it just wouldn't ring the same bell.
It wouldn't.
I know you've worked very hard on that, and I just very excited about it. So, no, you really do have something going. You've got Scuba Zach, and you've got Thaddeus, and you've got the wonderful Thaddeus toy. Well, we don't call it a stuffed toy. It's a stuffed toy, and it even shows little teeth. It is just wonderful. You really have done something. What's in there? You have something else in that.
Oh, this was my very first book that I wrote that is on the website as well.
Let me just see.
Yes.
Yes, the dog boy. Yes, So you see what it is. Yeah, I do remember you showing me this. You see, you have this other side of you, and maybe because of the children. Of course, your children that you take care of are the infants, the teeny infants. You don't really do anything with the little kids, do you, at the hospital?
I do. My job, actually, I'm full-time float staff, so the majority of the time I'm in the NICU, but I also have to go out and float to the other pediatric units if I'm needed there. So I get to interact with the babies and then the older ones as well. And actually, it was floating to the regular pediatric floors that gave me the idea to write the book, because when I go to the different floors, I notice when I walk in and I introduce myself, most of the time I'm ignored because the children are playing with their iPads or phones or video games, and you have to say, excuse me, hello. And sometimes they'll pay attention and sometimes they still won't. And you can go in at 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning and they're still playing with those different electronic devices, and no one's ever reading. And it just kind of like upsets me that, no one's reading, but, you're constantly hearing on the news there's such a problem with literacy and nobody's reading. So I just thought maybe I could write some fun books and with great pictures that would kind of like entice a child to want to read. And so I sat down one night and 3 o'clock in the morning and decided to start writing.
That's your best time because she works all weird hours day and night. But there's more to it, I think. It's because when you're with a child, it's not only they're reading it, you're reading it to them.
Exactly.
And that they can share it. I mean, I love electronics, and I think it's been great for kids because they can learn very quickly things, but we have lost that part. And I remember reading to my children. We used to go to the library. I had 3 children. We went to the library every single Saturday because we didn't have the computer in the sense. And we checked out the books, and we sat there and read. And that's just not happening with children. But I do understand it would be very hard for a child to pick this up and not want to read it because of your illustrations and, of course, the whole story is so absolutely beautiful. Of course, Disney does a great job. And Disney puts these wonderful movies on, and the kids get to see them, but they're still not interacting with anybody but the TV or their electronic device and themselves. I think I told you that I have triplet grandchildren, and sometimes, and I don't see them. They're in Miami. I don't see them that often when I come. You'd think I'd get this, "Hi, Grandma," and they say, "Hi, Grandma," and then they go back to their electronics.
Exactly.
And I'm not mad or upset, but it's disappointing.
Yes. Because
you want to have, the only time I get to interact is when we're having something to eat, a dinner or something, and I start to tell them a story. I make up stories, and I tell them stories. Now, I did read this to them. As a matter of fact, I remembered, and they were very interested in that. And of course, they fought over, I think I had only one, they fought over the Barracuda, but it really, and I want to go back over this coloring book. See, now they have an activity, which is really a great thing for them because they can become very involved in that. The thing I have to ask you is, this is so well done. Who did this? The illustrator the same way?
Yes. The illustrator that I use actually lives in India, and when I go diving, I send him pictures of the different sea creatures and fish that I see when I'm diving, and then I tell him to change them to make them look like, characters for children. But it's just actual from pictures that I've actually taken while diving myself. But with the coloring book, I wanted to do something different than with the stuffed Barracuda. And I know as a child myself, I got in trouble several times for drawing and coloring in the book that my mom bought, and I wasn't supposed to. So I figured, if I do a coloring book that looks exactly like the book, they don't have to draw and color in the real book. They have their own little special book that they can draw and color in and do what they want to do, and they're not getting in trouble for the one that mom or dad paid their money for.
Exactly. Let me see. So do you identify? Oh, you don't, other than on the front, you don't identify anything else, do you? Their name and the name of the book.
Yes.
Okay. And that's just, it's glorious. I see how you've done this. Being an author is an interesting thing because, unfortunately, and we've talked about this before, and even people who write very good books, they're running into a big problem because they're fighting against electronics.
Yes, it's hard.
Well, it happened with Boomer Times. We've been very fortunate because we do produce, we produce 41,000, about 160,000 readers. And as much as, and we are online, you can see it online, but maybe it's our population who reads this. They still read.
That's true, because they started out reading.
Right.
And so
these are delivered.
For them.
And unfortunately, if some don't get delivered for whatever reason, boy, we get the phone calls because they're waiting for it. And of course, it's inserted in the Miami Herald, Alice. And the thing is, we only insert 19,000 in a certain area. And one person gets it 1 month and maybe not the next month, goes to another person. Boy, they get so upset, and they're not paying for it. It comes in, it's like hysterical, but they like it enough because they're still reading.
Yes.
And I don't know if there's really an answer to that.
It's just the generations. I mean, things have changed, and, I still to this day like to read. I love the feel of the paper and the pages in my hand, and, it's something that I can always pull off the shelf and look at and put back on the shelf. It's not an electronic that I got to charge up and wait for it to get charged, and then when the battery die, I can't use it anymore. I got to sit somewhere with it plugged in. That's just not me. I like sitting in actual filling the pages in my hand, and that's how I was brought up, and it's just
right. I mean, I want to take a magazine, or I want to take a book, and I want to get lost.
Exactly.
And I do when I watch TV. If you're not watching commercials, you can get lost in some of the stories. I understand that, but another interesting thing is when I'm reading with a book in my hand or a magazine, I'm not eating. When I'm watching TV, I'm eating.
Yes.
I don't know what that's all about.
That's why they said don't sit in front of the TV and eat.
I know, because it's a very bad habit. So now that and how long did this take you to produce? I knew the first one, I think you said, it was pretty fast. You're pretty fast.
Just a couple of months. It's the process of, sitting down writing it takes no time. The first one I wrote like in 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning one night. I finished it, and the second one, it might have took me a day or two.
Amazing.
Just stopping and going. But once I get the actual words on the paper, then I have to make a decision on what fish I'm going to use, and I have to get all the pictures together and get those sent to the illustrator, and then he starts his sketches, and I have to approve sketches before we move on to the next set of sketches. And once all the sketches are approved, then the coloring starts, and I have to approve the coloring. So that's the process that takes the longest. It's not me writing, because once I sit down and start, it just kind of flows. Because I have experiences with the diving and the fish and the barracuda, so it's pretty simple. And me as a beginning diver, I was afraid of barracudas as well, and I hadn't really heard any stories about them, but they look very, very mean, and it's kind of like looking at a pit bull underwater. But after so many dives, realizing that they just sit and stare, they don't really do anything, you become pretty comfortable with them. And
Yeah, that was always the reason that, in fact, that's what why I loved it. And in my review, I remember I was reading my review, scared me to death. A lot of stuff underneath the water scares me to death, because I'm not like you. I'm a snorkeler, not a scuba diver. And even as a snorkeler, sometimes you get a little close and I get nervous. But after reading your book, I felt a lot more secure. I must say it helped me. And we live in an area where there's a huge, I won't call it a pond, it's water. And of course the turtles are there. I have to tell you, maybe you have to come by sometime, because you could write your next story about the turtles, the little ones, the big ones, and they're in this thing, and when you walk, they follow you because they're looking for food.
Yes.
We have the ducks. It's a whole new environment, but I know you're a scuba diver, so maybe that's not right. But I don't remember. Were there turtles? I didn't remember there were turtles.
The first one I have a turtle that he encounters in the sort of the beginning of the dive, and he takes video for a little while, but the turtle swimming faster than Scuba Zach can swim.
Oh, there he is. Yeah, I see him. That's right. Remember the turtle, right? Yeah, turtles are interesting, aren't they?
They're very, very
human,
nice.
Aren't they? They're.
I get very excited when I see a turtle underwater, and I'm just like Scuba Zach. I'm trying to keep up with him to take as much video as I can, and he always turns and he's gone a direction, and I can't keep up with him.
Yeah, what makes him able to swim so fast is the forelegs?
Is their fins. They're just like awesome swimmers. They look like they're moving slow, but they're not moving slow, and you cannot keep up with them. I've tried many times, and you're not going to win that race.
Isn't that great? And I see, and your camera, that's your camera. That's a very unusual, that's a big camera.
Well, there I made it big just so it could really be seen, but the one I use is pretty small, like a pocket-sized camera.
Right.
But I wanted to make sure that the children see. And
could see that, right.
That's the question that they always ask, about having a camera underwater. Is that really true? Can you really have it down there? And how far down can you go with the camera? So there's lots of questions that I get. Some questions I'm not prepared to answer. But that's just dealing with children. They're going to ask something that you're not prepared to answer.
But it's good, because then you know what to put in your book. Are you a fan of Jacques Cousteau?
I've read stories, when I was younger, I did.
Think about what he started so many years ago when people didn't understand what was under the water, and he was smart enough to be able to, I don't know how they took pictures at that time. That was unusual, or whatever they're doing. But started a whole foundation. He really made people appreciate what was under the sea, right?
Yes. It's a beautiful world. Beautiful, beautiful
And
world.
it probably frightens you in a sense when you see if people don't take care of it and they have all that trash and what goes on.
Exactly. Because a lot of people are, beach goers and, they're on boats and they're not thinking about, the effect of throwing things overboard or things that they're leaving on the beach that are being washed out into the ocean. If you go to Gumbo Limbo
In
Park
Boca
in
Raton,
Boca
yeah.
Raton, they have a wall where they have all the different materials and things that are found in water, that how long it takes for them to just disintegrate. And I mean, it's hundreds and hundreds of years.
Yeah, plastics are the
Yes,
worst.
I never even thought about baby Pampers and just, I mean, they have all that stuff that you would never even think about. That's a problem for the ocean. And it's an amazing wall that they have, and it's as a matter of fact, it's several walls that they have where they put things and they have the amount of time that it takes for it to disintegrate, and it's a nice little thing.
I
for
haven't
you to
been
see.
there since they had that. Years ago, I think I went, but I'll have to go there again. But what I want to do is just tell everybody that my guest is Alice Cypress. She is really an extraordinary writer for children. Their first book is Scuba Zach Meets Thaddeus the Barracuda. And the illustrations are incredible, absolutely incredible. That means the color, the quality of the paper of the book. It's a slick cover. Child would just be drawn to this. I know it did win an award. Now she just finished Scuba Zach Searches for Thaddeus because they're having a relationship. That at first Scuba Zach was a little frightened about this thing that looks like, it's a barracuda, and it does look pretty scary. And then he does get a little relationship. Then he goes back to find Thaddeus, and they find each other, and he actually pets him under the water. And it's just precious. That's all I can tell you. And you see all these different color fish that are always around him as they're as interested in him as he is in them, aren't they? Do you have an aquarium at home?
I don't.
You probably don't need one. You have the largest aquarium in the world
ocean,
underneath, right?
Exactly, and I don't have to clean.
No,
that
that's true.
Every so many days.
Exactly. I don't know if you heard this. Is funny. Someone said that there was a goldfish that was operated on. Did you hear that story?
I did.
Yeah, and someone said, "Come on, that's just what they told you." It was. But I did hear this from a vet that there was maybe it was a koi. It was a koi. It wasn't a goldfish, and it was pretty valuable. And it swallowed one of the pebbles or somewhere, and they were able to. And I said, "Well, how were you able to do it?" And what they do is they put it in water, and the water has some sort of a substance in it that makes them go to sleep.
Oh, wow.
And then they can take them and take it out, and they got it out. Now I heard this from a vet, so I have to assume it's right. Now that could be a good story.
It could. I mean, actually, speaking of the Gumbo Limbo Park, if you go they just happen to appear at the right time, they do surgery on the turtles that they've rescued. Some that have, different types of tumors or may have swallowed hooks or other things from the water that we've thrown in the water that have harmed them. But they have a little operating room there with the window, and it's an awesome thing to see. Yes.
Okay, so see, you never know what's going to happen. Now, if you want to buy the book, I'm going to give you a way to go and do that. And you just go on the web to Tigerfly Books, TIGERFLY books.com, and order the book. It's very inexpensive. Tell me again how much it is.
$14.95.
$14.95, and it comes with, if you buy the first one, it comes with the cutest stuffed toy you'll ever see. It's actually looks, supposed to just look like a barracuda. Cute, cute, cute. And it's all being hand done by Alice and her mother. Then the second one is really nice, and it comes with its own coloring book that you'll get when you buy the book, and it's filled with pictures that you can color. You can do it with your grandchild. You can both color in one, because there are a lot of things on it. Come on, you take that part and I'll take this part,
exactly.
Right? It's really great. You're just, I admire you so much, especially for the work that you do when you're not writing books, to be a nurse in a children's hospital, Broward, the Broward Health System, which I love. I'm part of that, and I I know that we just funded, I think it was $20 million a renovation of when we changed the name now to the new hospital.
It's beautiful.
It really is.
Yes.
It's very special. It's the Sala. Now I think
Yes.
it's called the Sala Hospital, Children's Hospital. It used to be Chris Everett, but that's no longer the way it is. But I heard that I think I missed the tour of the new hospital. It's coming up. They're having an opening. Actually, they're having that coming up, I think, this month, because I think I was invited to it, and I have to get that on my calendar.
I know 2 of the units are already in operation as of maybe a couple of weeks now.
Mm-hmm. And we have just a minute or 2 left, but maybe we don't. We do. Okay, so he was just telling us that we're probably run out of time. But I will look forward to whatever else that you're doing. I mean, you just keep surprising us, but this is a lovely gift. I can't tell people enough about it. You buy the one book, I would buy 2 now that they're both out, and I think that would be very special for everybody to see. So thank you, Alice,
you
for coming.
very much.
You're so precious. Here she's been working all night, and she comes here early in the morning looking gorgeous. Thanks, Alice.
Thank you.
Bye.